Welcome, Year 8, to our last online lesson, last of either type actually, online or live. So let's crack on. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. You're going to need your copy of Macbeth, a pen and your exercise book, and the title is Macbeth Throughout the Play. And the big question for today is what becomes of Macbeth? Obviously, there's a physical aspect of that. He ends up with his head on a stick, doesn't he? And there's the psychological aspect of it. What journey does he go on psychologically? That's what we're going to be looking at today. Right, today, Macbeth in Act 5 particularly, your task is to consider his speeches. I have lived long enough. My way of life is fallen into the sear, the yellow leaf, and that which should accompany old age, as honour, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have, but in their stead curses, not loud but deep, mouth honour, breath which the poor heart would fain deny and dare not. So, in this speech, Macbeth lists 4 things that people hope for in old age. What are they, and why doesn't he have them? What does Macbeth expect instead of things that old people wish for? What does this tell us about him? Number 3, what does the language of this speech suggest about Macbeth's outlook on life by this point in the play? And number 4, what has power done to Macbeth? Why does this have to happen to him? So 10 minutes to answer those, please, Year 8. Now, this speech we've seen performed, and we've analysed it lightly. This time we're going to look at how it relates specifically to Macbeth, not just his state of mind, but the journey that he's been on. So remember this one. This is the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow speech when the soldier goes past and he says, "The Queen, my lord, is dead." Macbeth's response to that is, "She should have died hereafter. There wouldn't have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle! Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." Now let's go around and have a look at some of the questions here. I've highlighted it for you. Let's start on the top left-hand side. What is Macbeth saying about how the days pass, creeps in this petty pace? Underneath that, Macbeth says life is an illusion here. What does he mean? And then down here, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. What is Macbeth saying about life? What does Macbeth's reaction to the news of his wife's death tell you about how he is feeling at this point? Out, brief candle. Is there a symbolic meaning to the brief candle Macbeth mentions? Is it a metaphor? What is the metaphor Macbeth uses here? What does he compare life to? Okay, so answer those in full sentences. That'll take you 10 minutes, and on to the next slide. Right, this is from Act 1, Scene 2, a speech about Macbeth rather than by him. For Brave, this is when we first hear about him and he's just coming from the battle. For brave Macbeth, well, he deserves that name, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like valour's minion carved out his ashes till he faced the slave, which ne'er shook hands nor bade farewell to him, till he unseamed him from his nave to the chaps and fixed his head upon our battlements. There's a couple of things going on in there. Go through the questions. How could this be seen to be foreshadowing? Who else whose name starts with an M could this later on in the play, this speech, be applied to? And also, there's a mention of someone's head ending up on a stick as well, isn't there? So how could this be considered to be foreshadowing? Aristotle's 5-act structure is commonly associated with Shakespearean tragedies, tracking the fortunes of the tragic hero throughout the play. Now I want you to match the following events, you'll have seen this diagram before, match the following events in the play to the word that describes that moment in the play. So here you can see on the right hand side you've got resolution, inciting incident and climax, and on the left you've got a description of 3 different places in the play. They're not in the right order at the moment, so I want you to put them, what is the resolution of the play, what is the inciting incident, and what is the climax of the play. You don't need to write them all out. Just do that in your head, really, because we're going to be doing it in detail on the next slide. And here is the diagram filled in for the whole play. You don't need to copy it down. You've got a task. The next task is the one that goes on the class charts. I mean, you can if you want, but there's no requirement for you to. And this lays out the story of Macbeth as with the Aristotelian story structure over it. Okay. Now here's the thing that I want you to spend the last just 15 minutes writing up. Macbeth is a strong leader. To what extent do you agree? Now, these evaluative questions, which is what this is, you always come down sort of I partially agree or I partially disagree, the same thing. Macbeth could be argued is a strong leader because he certainly is, in the context of the time, incredibly brutal and doesn't hold back on sort of pushing things forward as the king. So that could be seen as strong leadership in the sort of style of Mussolini or someone. But he's not very empathic, is he? And he doesn't surround himself. He doesn't keep his friends nearby. All of those things could be seen as signs of strength as well. So write just a 15-minute response to that and upload it to class charts. And I will see you tomorrow, Year 8.